Hey there, it's Tom Ryan, founder and CEO of ICR. Before we get into the next episode, I wanted to ask that you subscribe to the show. It'll help us get even more unique and interesting guests on the podcast and in turn continue to educate management teams and the growing ecosystem that creates value for fast-growing private and public companies. And while you're at it, head over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star rating. Very much appreciated.
The company has evolved over time. We don't pretend to be static. We see where the customer wants to go, and we add businesses and even to subtract businesses along the way.
Staying ahead doesn't just mean keeping up. It means knowing when to pivot, expand, or even let go.
Vertical competitors, maybe they're great in research or they're great in marketing programs, but we're really unique in having a horizontal platform that does both sides and has these multiple revenue streams. And part of that makes it even more engaging for the consumer who wants to have many different ways to engage.
Being a public company can be hard. Small missteps can have outsized consequences. I'm Tom Ryan, founder and CEO of ICR, and over the last 25 years, we've helped thousands of companies understand and navigate the stock market and the media. We'll demystify these and other increasingly complex stakeholder groups so you can focus on what you do best, building your company and unlocking your true potential. This is Welcome to the Arena from ICR. When it comes to running a business, data insights are invaluable, but that data has to come with meaningful action. You need to be willing to evolve alongside your customers and constantly refine your approach to meet their needs. Today's guest has mastered this balance, building a platform that drives engagement, growth, and innovation at scale. Today, we're sitting down with Chuck Davis, Chairman and CEO of Prodege. Chuck's business journey began by creating a sports newsletter in middle school that caught the attention of then NFL Commissioner Pete Rozelle. He went on to earn degrees from Brown University and then Harvard Business School. Afterward, he embarked on a career that would shape the digital landscape. Chuck started in publishing, working for Time Inc. and TV Guide before becoming the Walt Disney Company's first president of e-commerce in 1996, where he launched pivotal online platforms like DisneyStore.com and ESPNStore.com. Chuck's career progressed as he led Shopzilla, formerly known as BizRate.com, through its acquisition in 2005 and transformed Fandango into a leading entertainment website. For the last 10 years, he's built Prodege into a cutting-edge marketing consumer insights platform. Chuck was an Ernst & Young's Entrepreneur of the Year in 2004. He was inducted into the Los Angeles Venture Association Hall of Fame in 2015, and he's been an entrepreneur in residence at Harvard Business School, among other acknowledgments and leadership roles. Let's enter the arena with Chuck Davis. So you've worked, with like an amazing roster of digital brands. What was it like doing that kind of in the early days of the internet, when the internet was on page 6 of USA Today and people were like, that's never going to make it? Like, what was that like just as everything was exploding?
Well, look, it was all pretty crazy. First off, I didn't found any of these companies. And at the early stage of the internet, the founders are who everyone wanted to be. Everyone wanted to be a founder. And the investors usually figured out that a founder may or may not make it to the finish line. So I became the middle reliever. They needed a middle reliever to come in and kind of help out the founder and become a closer and get the company scaled to a better place and eventually to a sales. I've done it 3 times. It's not always easy. The BizRate Shopzilla experience, we had 5 layoffs before we got a sale. Insane. The board said, fire half the people. And I said, which half? So I said, if you let me do it my way, we'll do like 15% and get there. And we did. And it was hell, but it created multi-million dollars of value because we finally figured out the business model. That's what the early days of the internet looked like, right?
Yeah, I remember.
Crazy valuations after the '00 crash. You had to figure out what the business is.
Yeah, and how to make money.
I could tell you something like that at Fandango. When I went down into Fandango. I met the staff on the first day, and there were only like 30 employees. And the engineers, two engineers, wanted to meet with me. But the engineer said, Chuck, we're spending half our time doing a project for Apple. And I said, is it a good project? And they said, well, I'm not sure if it's a good project or not. This is my first day as CEO. Why am I paying you to work on a project you don't know if it's good or not? Anyway, long story short, they stayed on that project, and 6 months later, we found out that the first iPhone had Fandango as its first app. So, and they didn't even know what they were working on. And that was crazy. Let me give you a little on how I got to the internet, because I think that's kind of important. I started out of college at Time Inc. I was at Life magazine and then Sports Illustrated. But what I learned at Time Inc. was that it was really important to have more than one revenue stream. I call it a multi-flex offense. That if you just have advertising and the ad market goes soft, you're kind of out of business. If you just have circulation and no advertising, that's a problem if the consumer doesn't want to pay anymore. So having balance was really important. So in each of these companies that I've worked for, you will find a multi-flex offense that there were usually three revenue streams, a minimum, that stuck, so that when the economy went bad, not all areas went bad at the same time. When the economies were good, maybe most of them were good. So that has served me well over time.
Well, it's a super interesting background and really tees you up for what you're doing right now with Prodege. For listeners that don't know, what does the company do and what initially drew you to that opportunity?
We run a two-sided platform. We help brands get people signed up for their products. And we do that through signing up for fintech online banking accounts, installing and playing games, shopping online, using digital coupons at your supermarket to get points or rebates back. We also have this consumer insights business. It's so big. We'll do tens of millions of surveys each year, and we help market research agencies and consumer product companies survey their clients or their customers or their prospects and find out more about how to make their products better. And the other side of the platform, it started with just one site called Swagbucks, and Swagbucks is a cashback community where you engage in these marketing aspects that I was talking about and or in market research, and you earn cash back for doing this, for your time. And in the meanwhile, we're collecting lots of data because we're giving money back to you in return for your letting us use your data. And we have an incredible supply of very loyal customers because Swagbucks is now one of about 6 websites we've acquired. So uniquely, Prodege has these great B2B relationships on one side of the platform, and we have really engaged customers on the other side who want to earn cash back. We've given out over $2 billion in rewards in the cashback community. So I think we'll give out over 150 million this year. And that gets people pretty riled up. Like, how do I earn more? How do I engage more? Which makes both sides of the platform very happy.
Yeah. And it seems to me that you're unique in the space. There's certainly a lot of competitors around, but they seem to be either insights or marketing. Like you said, you're kind of both. But the other thing is you're doing it at scale, right?
Yeah, all of this is at massive scale, and the company has evolved over time. So these businesses that we're in are of the era. We don't pretend to be static. We see where the customer wants to go, and we add businesses and even to subtract businesses along the way. So yeah, Prodege is a living organism that will keep getting more engaging properties. When you speak about competitors, yeah, they're vertical competitors, and maybe they're great in research or they're great in marketing programs, but we're really unique in having a horizontal platform that does both sides of this and has these multiple revenue streams. And part of that makes it even more engaging for the consumer who wants to have many different ways to engage. And they don't want to just surgically go in and earn money. They want to have fun. They want to be entertained. They want to see what new things are offered. So we have a trivia game each evening. We have a swaggo board, which is like a bingo board to get you to try different areas around our site. And it's a very engaging and addictive, in a good way to supplement and bring a few extra bucks into your household. We've got a lot of former parents who used to work and maybe now they're in the parenting stages and they want to just earn a few extra bucks, and they take their family to Chili's or Applebee's once a month, or give their kids Amazon gift cards at the end of each month from just being engaged on our platform.
And, you're obviously dealing with lots of people and their information. How do you handle privacy, and how does that put you all in a position of strength?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's a great concern for consumers, too. They want to make sure that they know how their information is being used. We are giving points or dollars back to the consumer in return for their permissioning us to use this data and learning, both first-party data and anything we pick up from the survey process. So it's a quid pro quo. We'll pay you and you'll let us use the information. We don't abuse it because they could cancel anytime. It's not a subscription. The only way you sign up is by giving us your email address.
Yeah. Well, you've been doing this for over a decade, Chuck, and you've been doing it through different economic cycles. It seems to me that the business is pretty diversified the more you kind of peel back the layers. But talk about that and talk about how the business in your mind performs through business cycles, recessions, and things like that, because I think that's so interesting.
It's interesting to me, too. And again, I come back to this multi-flex offense. I'm now 29 years in digital, and like you've seen it all. The downturn that came, the last few years is actually like two downturns. You had COVID, and then you had high inflation.
Yeah, COVID, Jesus.
Yeah, you had like a double whammy, and I'm like, oh, great, this is my third go around at downturns. Like, I know that playbook, and I know what to do. So my investors kind of thanked me like, wow, you were like the first one to batten the hatches when the downturn came without us having to tell you what to do. So I think history is great prologue to going forward. So you can learn from those and how to deal with it. And the quicker you can react to a downturn, the quicker you can regain. Also, what you do in the downturn is very important for the upturn. What I tell my senior team and all employees, because I like over communicating, is you never can budget a downturn. You don't know how deep it will be, and you don't know how long it will go for. Similarly, you can't plan for the upturn. You can't plan for the tailwinds. And they just kind of happen. So I let everyone know we are going to come out of any downturn better for the upturn, because we know how to work harder and smarter and not cut in the areas that will grow out when the tailwinds come. So when they come, we usually grow disproportionately. It feels like the process has just started.
Yeah, and coming out of the downturn is so much more fun than going into it. I can speak from experience with that, but there's so much leverage in the business model when you come out of it, right?
Exactly. Look, we all feel that way, Tom. I mean, that's how it works, right? We all don't want to be in a downturn, and we all want to get out of it. And
that's it.
This isn't just about your clients and your investors and your consumers. It's also your employees, and you got to think about them too. How are they weathering the storm, and how can we be helpful in thinking that through and letting them understand the issues, and that after every downturn is an upturn. You need to know there is another side of the rainbow every time.
Yep. So, Chuck, you mentioned briefly kind of the gaming industry, and that seems pretty fascinating. Can you go a little deeper into how that's evolved within the business and kind of how you think about it going forward?
You know what's so interesting about the Protege business? We go to where the consumer tells us they want to engage. And we had casual mobile games listed in our offers area on the site, and it started blowing up, and we had to break it out into its own separate channel on the Swag Bucks and other brands' websites because it was getting so big. There are people who want to play Monopoly Go and other games, and they download them. And what's so interesting about playing a game through Swagbucks or any of the other Protege websites is we give the consumer rewards for not just installing the game, but obviously for attaining certain levels along the way. And that's unique because if you just click on, an AdWord to download a game, you're not getting any rewards. We're giving you multiple rewards every time you attain a new level. And gamers just love playing these games. And what a great thing that you could get rewarded along the way.
Politics and regulations are top of mind for every business right now, especially in industries reliant on data. With the increased regulations around third-party data and the possibility of a cookieless future, I wanted to hear how Protege is adapting to these changes and what they mean for its competitive edge.
Well, I think we're, again, in the best position for this because we've got permission from the consumers to look at how they behave and see how they've behaved in return for rewarding them cash back. And I think these laws and the cookieless environment are going to affect others that don't have these right permissions more than it would affect someone like us. So I think it would be wrong to just eliminate cookies, but to have them for functional reasons and for other sorts of tracking. As you can see, the consumers always get the choice of what level of tracking they want to have. But again, we're top of the food chain in this area. I think as you get into regulations, and regulations make it very hard to, especially for startups, and all the compliance that has to go on. And I would say starting a company today versus starting it 20 years ago is much more complicated with the amount of regulations that are going on. I would say that we're coming out of this downturn and into a change in administration. I coach my teams into understanding that once a first rate cut happens, that usually there's another flurry of rate cuts that happens. It might not happen in the next quarter, but it should happen over the next year and a half to 2 years. And over that time, companies that spend money in marketing, which is where we flourish, their budgets will grow because as those companies spend less money on debt and are able to hire again and are able to have bigger marketing and research budgets, that we will be the beneficiary of that. And a lot of that happened to coincide with the election because budgets in companies are all kind of ratified in November of every year. So I said we should expect a good year next year in 2025 and a great year in 2026, because once the cuts happen, and there will be more, I would expect there'll be another, 5 or 6, 7 more cuts over the next 18 months.
And it takes a while for them to cycle through the economy for sure, right? So we talked a little bit about third-party data, Chuck, moving to first-party data. And I think this is really interesting. It's a simple thing, but it's very important, which is data quality. How do you ensure the highest standards of quality in your survey responses and consumer insights? Because I could see some, maybe smaller competitors might be cutting corners in that area. I mean, that quality of data is everything, isn't it?
Quality is everything, and quality is a proxy word for anti-fraud. That there's a lot of fraudulent survey takers out there. There are bots, and AI is trying to figure out how to pretend that I'm a person filling out a survey. And if you're an underfinanced or a newbie kind of company, you haven't been through the cycles of seeing quality and how to maintain high quality. We have so many filters to try and ensure that our quality is high. Protege is known for having some of the highest quality data, amongst the highest, if not the highest, in the marketing and insights industry. And we're going to protect that at all costs. That doesn't mean that anti-fraud always works, but I have legions of headcount focused on this, both from a software perspective and from manual people, just making sure, because when you're giving out free money, there are also quality issues that come up against any company that is doing this because they want to earn free money.
And, I think you touched on it as part of the answer, Chuck, but, AI is such a huge new trend. How is that affecting the business, both good and bad?
Yeah, I don't have a bad in there yet, unless the fraud example that I gave is something we've got to keep an eye out on for the future. But I'll break the good into two different camps. One is internal productivity, and the second would be products for our clients. And on the internal productivity, we have it across the board. The coders are coding much more efficiently with major improvement. I mean, if we ask our CTO, he'd say it's 30% more efficient. The customer service has cut down on the cycle time and the velocity of returning every response, because we're able to respond in a much more meaningful and grouped, categorized way. We figured out HR law by country and have manuals on it that have been put together through AI. So across the board, productivity is up. More excitingly, on the product side, we bought a company in Greece called Polefish, and this was in 2022. And one of the things we really liked about it, it had an AI survey builder. And we have grown on top of that to now build an AI conversational bot that goes in the middle of the survey, and like you're doing, calling audibles and asking me questions that might not be part of your game plan, it changes the survey on the fly and starts changing the questions because it heard what your responses are. And what you're going to see coming out going forward are products that in a quantitative survey will interject and have qualitative focus group like questions and interviews in the middle of a survey. Those used to be two separate things you'd have to hire projects on, and we're going to be able to integrate them all in one.
The organic growth of the business, to a degree, is going to be reliant on constant innovation, new products, new things that keep people interesting. It sounds like that acquisition in Greece is a big part of that. But what else do you have going on that's kind of coming down the pipeline in the next few years that you can talk about?
I think the market research suite of products is where the bulk of our AI innovation will manifest itself. Within the industry, I think we're considered pretty much upper middle class, kind of cutting edge of having products that are in the forefront, technology enhanced for clients, for the market research agencies, for CPGs. And we aim to really keep the quality of our data, the integrity and character of it, super high, coupled with having leading products and features that are really important and giving white glove service where it's needed. So many of our competitors have chopped out the hand holding from those who still want it and need it. On the other hand, and AI helps us a lot, we are heavier, and Polefish is a big part of this, in the self-serve environment. Because as you know, Tom, and everything like we do in life, some of it works really well self-serve, cutting out the in-between steps. But other stuff, we need significant handholding, how to build a survey, how to make it happen. So AI is going to help us with the flexibility on both ends of the spectrum. How do we help those that want the old world and want to do things with a lot of interaction back and forth with a human? And how will other people want to just have the work done for them and are open to having it done through technology or enhanced technology?
So, Chuck, we obviously talked about organic growth. You're putting a lot of resources towards that. In terms of inorganic growth, you did do an acquisition in 2022. Is the industry, super fragmented? Is there a lot of opportunity to grow through acquisitions? And kind of what's your philosophy on buying other companies?
Listen, I've been here 10 and a half years as CEO, and we've acquired 10 companies. And you mentioned the Polefish acquisition in 2022. We actually made 3 acquisitions in 2022. I don't recommend that,
No.
doing that many in a short period of time, because each of them needs care. Each of them has its customers and its employees. But I would say we look at acquisitions opportunistically and strategically. And we have had the first 5 of them were other cashback communities. So we told you that Swag Bucks was the first. It's what the company was when it started, and we bought a bunch of others. My Points from United Online, Inbox Dollars, and there are others. The later acquisitions really had technology behind it, like Polefish, that really was able to enhance and complement the technology we had on the home front. So getting those types of acquisitions has been really helpful to take us to a better platform for better products. Now, what does that mean going forward? Well, we've talked about a lot of smaller ones, but that doesn't preclude us from a big strategic one either that would be very transformational for both companies.
Interesting. And this is a different question, but it does relate to not only organic growth, but also M&A. How do you maintain a strong company culture as you integrate acquisitions, expand into new markets, and just generally grow?
We spend a ton of time on the culture. The founder of this company, Joseph Garowitz, really got it going, and I've tried to build on Joseph's vision and how it all works. We did an interesting thing. We came up with core values for the company, 5 of that Joseph and I didn't create. We sent a survey to the employees and said, give us one word of what you think we do really well. And we took those one words times, at the time we probably had 200 employees. We have about 650 today. And we turned that into our core values because the employees said that's what they look at Prodege to do. And there are 5. It spells the acronym GROW IT. The G is giving back. We give back money to the consumers, but we give back to the employees also. We give each employee $50 every quarter into an account that allows them to donate to charity. And we feel if they can get into the groove of giving back, that's something they'll keep for the rest of their life. So we put our money where we are in the giving business. The second is respect. We respect wherever you come from, whatever your values are, and we respect each other. The third core value is owning it. Own responsibility. Take ownership. Raise your hand. When something goes wrong, we're not going to execute you, but take responsibility and own it. I is for innovation. You die a little every day if you don't innovate. What are we doing this week to innovate and come up with new products and a better process? And the last is T for teamwork. So all of that spells grow it. And if you grow it, we win. And that's the W that's missing in the term grow it. I want to talk about two other aspects of the culture. One is transparency. I don't play games. I don't play politics. I want you to know what I'm sweating, what's keeping me up at night. And then maybe you'll sleep a little less also, or sleep a little better, depending, because I'm not BSing you. I'm telling you and being very transparent. The second thing that we do here that I'm really proud about is we do meetings with everyone in the company. I'm not talking about an all hands meeting, which we do quarterly for 650 people across 11 time zones. I'm talking about on your anniversary month of when you were hired, I will do a Zoom with you, not one-on-one, but everyone who was hired in January, I'll do a Zoom with all the January hires once a year. I might have to do 3 of them in January, but I'm going to do it. And I want to know, what do we do well? What can we do better? I want to know where you give in giving back. And I want to know something about you personally. And this is with 20 different Zoom people on the screen, so we get to know each other a little better. So we're transparent, and the culture is one where I cut out the middle layers, and if you have a problem, just tell me. I want to hear and cut out all those layers.
Prodege isn't just another data company. It's an ecosystem where consumer insights and marketing work together seamlessly to drive engagement and innovation. With a horizontal platform that stands out in a vertically driven world, Prodege is redefining how businesses connect with their audiences. Chuck's vision proves that adaptability and customer connection at scale are the foundation of lasting success. At Welcome to the Arena from ICR, we're working really hard to bring you exciting guests and great content. If you found this episode insightful, please subscribe to the show on your podcast app and leave us a 5-star rating. The more the show grows, the more interesting voices we can have on the podcast, and in turn, that should demystify a lot of the stakeholders around public companies and soon-to-be public companies. Thank you so much for listening. A big thanks to Chuck Davis for joining us today. Prodege is a powerhouse operating at an impressive scale, and it's backed by a strong culture and a sharp acquisition strategy. With the momentum of a growing economy and strategic leadership at the company, their future looks incredibly bright. This is Tom Ryan. We'll see you next time back in the arena.
References to specific stocks are not intended to be recommendations for specific trading behavior. Comments presented on this podcast are intended for informational and educational purposes only, and do not represent opinions or recommendations on whether to buy, sell, or hold shares of a particular stock. All investors are advised to conduct their own independent research into individual stocks before making a trading decision. In addition, investors are advised that past stock performance is no guarantee of future price performance.